Good afternoon. My name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is FM. And with me today, I have Ayman Kaouri.
Hi guys, thanks Dale. Good to
Hey.
meet you again.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I think you are the furthest east guest I've had on the show. So thank you, because you're 2-3 hours ahead
3 hours, yeah, man. Dubai.
in Dubai. Okay. I mean, that leads to my first question, which I put in the post. Is Dubai really as lit as people say?
It's definitely hot. If lit means hot, then yes. It can.
I genuinely don't know what it means.
I think it means like cool, but I'll leave it
Yeah.
for the younger viewers to comment on that. But Dubai is also.
I'm genuinely hoping other people will comment on that because I need to know. I know what it means in context. Yo, man, that backflip was lit, son.
There you go.
I get that, but like, I don't understand what it actually means.
Yeah.
And sorry, I cut you off. You're talking about Dubai being hot. Okay, typical
Yeah.
British person question. How hot is it, Ayman?
Yeah. So at the moment, it's getting to around 40-ish. It can get a bit hotter. So there's been days when it gets to like 46, and that's common. But what I'd say is,
Degree C?
yes, this is Celsius, man. But look, what I would say is, I'm more comfortable when it's hot here than when it's hot in the UK, genuinely, because you've got air conditioning everywhere here. I'm not talking about outside. I'm talking about when you're indoors, and we tend to spend most of our time indoors, right? So when people say, "Oh, Dubai's so hot," it is. You can't do too much outdoors during the day, but genuinely, like when you're indoors, it's a heck of a lot more comfortable because the country's built to be able to handle the heat. Whereas in the UK, as soon as it gets too hot, everyone's like panic buying fans and portable AC units and stuff like that, and it just gets out of hand. So I actually prefer being here in the summer.
No, fair play, fair play. Is Dubai, like other very hot countries, do you have like a siesta, like nap concept in the middle of the day or not?
No, not really.
No.
Unless, I don't know. I've never seen anyone do it, but I've never heard of it over here. It's not common.
Okay. I got to bring up Mr. Tennick, Graham Tennick, FCCA. Just like the weather in Newcastle today, he wishes it was like Dubai.
Is it not very warm at the moment in the UK? What's it like?
Oh, it's warm, but like Newcastle's never going to be on the same level as Dubai. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know Mr. Tennick? Have you met him before? He's a cool guy.
I think I have.
like his smiley
I think we're
face.
connected, but no, I don't really met in person.
Yeah. Okay. Second question. How much are you benching at the moment?
No, because you put me on the spot here because I've got an injury. I've done my rotator cuff.
Look, man,
A few.
I don't want excuses. I want results.
Oh, mate. No, it's nothing. I've never really got that good at it, to be honest. I think at the moment it's around 80 kilograms, but I've literally not been able to make any progress for the last couple of months because of this rotator cuff injury. It's one of those injuries that just takes months and months and months to resolve as well.
No, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm aware it's a really bad one. How did you do it?
Benching. So I didn't have the irony, right? So like I didn't have a spotter in the gym. So I go to the gym in my hotel at the moment over here where I'm staying, and there wasn't a spotter around. I was there at a quiet time, and I just thought I'm just going to push myself because I've been building myself back up to my previous levels, and I thought, oh, I've got one more in me. I went to do it, and it just went, and then I was stuck there with like the bar on my chest, no one around to call for help, and I just had to kind of ungracefully push it off me. But I got it off safely. But I'm pretty sure I did my rotator cuff at that point.
I say we, anyone who's ever lifted, we've all been there at some point. We've all done it. We've gone a little bit too hard, a little bit too heavy, one extra rep, thought we could do it, no one around, and you have that embarrassing moment when your chest is being crushed, and you either move that off you, or you could die.
Yeah.
That sounds really extreme, but it's true, right? You could really hurt yourself. So
you could.
I'm glad you managed to get the weight off you. Okay.
What are you benching?
Next question.
What are you benching?
My personal best at the moment is 105, and that was about 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
But my rep range, that was me really pushing it. That was someone spotting, and that was it barely getting up. I think the guy had like a finger on it. But no, I'm benching around 80, 85. Like I'm not. My upper body is disgustingly weak compared to my lower body. I know, generally speaking, that's most people, but like the ratio. So like my squat is 180, and my deadlift is 250. So my bench should be higher, but it's not because my technique isn't great.
See, I don't like leg day.
I love leg day. I love it.
Yeah, I'll do it, but I'll never skip it. But I don't enjoy it.
Sorry, got to do some shout outs. Raquel Flores, she is in Texas at the moment again. So it's like 7 a.m. for her. AOC from Texas. So thanks for tuning in. I'm going to give Kofi a shout as well. Kofi, I don't know where you are. I know you're in the US, but man, he's a really cool dude. He has got like several businesses. He's an author, and one of his businesses is sports attire as well. And I'm going to get a pair of his running shoes because they look dope. Like I want some.
Sounds awesome.
I don't even like running. Sorry. Okay. Next question. What does EMEA stand for?
Europe, Middle East, Africa.
Cool. Why do businesses dissect the world in this way?
Yeah, so you have like different groupings. So you'll have APAC, which is Asia Pacific. You'll have EMEA, then you'll have like Americas. It just tends to be the way they do it because as soon as you start internationalizing, you tend not to be able to handle everything from one place. So you'll split regions up into groupings, and you'll usually have an MD of some kind of looking after a particular region. And it's just easier to, rather than saying Europe, Middle East, Africa every time, just to shorten it to EMEA.
Okay. Because you were the EMEA, sorry, for Xero.
Yeah, but I have to qualify that because I was only looking after the emerging markets in EMEA. So you have to exclude the UK and South Africa that had their own offices. I was basically responsible for growing everywhere else.
Cool. Was it fun? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it, man. It was like the dream gig at Xero. It was a team that I'd actually pitched for that team to be created, and I'd just seen so much opportunity in the markets that weren't our core focus ones, and we weren't really doing as much as we could have there. We'd grown really well, but really organically. So to have the opportunity to build a new team, to go out there and to learn more about these markets and dive deeper and try and be more proactive in them, it was a dream, man. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Follow-up question. It might sound silly, but I like asking silly questions. When you say emerging markets, what do you specifically mean? Just again, what does that mean?
Yeah, so,
emerging for who, for what, for why?
So I don't know if I'm going to have the dictionary definition here, but for me, it means a market that isn't an established one for the company. So not necessarily not an established or developed market generally, but for you as a company, we didn't really have a presence. Like, let's take the UAE where I am now. This was a market that we'd been growing in. It's been emerging for us, like it's been growing somewhat organically, but it hasn't really kind of benefited from lots of investment from us, right? In the same way that a core market like the UK or Australia or New Zealand would have for Xero. So yeah, it's a market that's kind of up and coming is the best way to put it.
That's cool. That's cool. Because again, EMEA for most people is an impressive title, or something you've gained within a business or an industry. Like, you know, it means the business is quite large, and to be the head of that, whether that's emerging or established business, is kind of a big deal. What would you say to a younger person, so someone who's either at uni, finishing uni, or just finished school, if they have aspirations of being an EMEA kind of director or manager? What kind of path can they take? What do they need to know? Do they need to know another language? Like, any advice on that?
Yeah, sure. So look, I started off in a technical role. So when I studied computer science, right? So you wouldn't have thought, I don't think necessarily, you wouldn't assume that I would be kind of getting a general manager role eventually. I wouldn't have made that assumption early on. And when I graduated, I went straight into a technical role. So I was supporting and developing software for a property management software company. So I was essentially like the first, second, and third line support. So we took the calls in.
Because you also did some dev work for Oracle as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Company. So that was while I was at university. Actually, that was my placement year. So I worked for Oracle for a year, helped in the early stages of like their Fusion payroll product, which was a really interesting project to get involved in. But that's where I got really good at like databases and relational databases and SQL and all that thing, and that really helped me out actually in my final year of uni. But yeah, going back to your question. I started out in quite a technical role when I first graduated. Now, a couple of years into that role, I realized I actually really enjoy the people side of things more than the technical side of things. So I started. I remember talking to my manager at the time saying, I want to actually move into project management. And the way we were set up as a company at the time was you had like the customer support team was almost like the feeder team into the consulting team. And then the consulting team reported, well, they worked for projects on with the project managers, right? So I was almost having my eyes on like two roles ahead. And for me, that having that goal in sight helped me have clarity as to how I would get there. And this goes back to the point to answer your question as well. What's the advice? The advice is try and figure out what you like doing and make sure you communicate it. So I was clear to my line manager at the time that this is the direction I want to head in. This is what I think I need to do. Can we get there together? And they liked it. They saw the potential in me and helped me get there. So I've seen lots of people not know how to navigate their careers over the time, and I've mentored lots of people. Sometimes they just are too afraid to say to someone that this is what I want to do, and I think that can really hold you back, because if people don't know that that's what you aspire for, then how are they going to help you get there? And most people want other people to do well.
Okay. That's really good advice. Thank you. That's genuinely helpful. Whether you're young or old, that's fantastic stuff. So thank you for saying that. Let me think. Next question. I'm trying to make sure they're not too silly, also not too boring.
They haven't been silly yet.
Okay, you can have silly ones if you want. No, okay, let's go for a serious one. Digitization is a word that has been around for many, many moons. What specifically is it, and how has it impacted the bookkeeping and accounting sector that you're aware of?
Okay, man. So this is a deep question, because it means different things to different people. There's like, for example, you could take digitalization as being just the adoption of any kind of digital system, right? That's anything that's not manual or analog. So like an upgrade from, let's say, pen and paper could be considered, even if it's Excel going digital, right? And at its most basic sense, maybe that is good enough. But what I would say these days is we tend to talk more about digital transformation, right? And this is where, for me at least, this is where you've got interconnected kind of systems that are working together in the digital realm. So removing as much manual effort and having things automated as much as possible, with software help at the core of that. That's what it is for me, man. It's helping the workflow, automating as much as possible, so that the people can do what they're really good at, and that can really bring the value to the table, rather than spending time and effort doing things that can actually be automated. That's what it means for me, and that's what I think really drives me in what I do at the moment, is where you see these bottlenecks or challenges faced, whether it's resourcing challenges, you can't find the people. Well, getting more efficient can help in that regard. So if a computer can do something that a human can, it's either not going to be the case in a few years, and therefore you want to get ahead of it, or you're already probably behind, and actually, are you doing things the right way? And are you doing things the most efficient way? Maybe it's being risk averse. I'd rather keep control, and people don't trust the tech. But for me, man, digitalization is almost having the faith and taking the initiative in moving towards digital systems to address these challenges that organizations face.
Okay. Can efficiency go too far? And what I mean by that, very loaded question, can we get to the point where we're so efficient that the fear that some people have about AI, for example, will replace the humanity of work in the workplace?
I don't think so. Not for me personally, because I think we spot these things. I think if the AI gets so good, right, that it can do things that humans currently can, then we need to be doing things that the AI can't do. Like, basically, if something can happen, and it's an inevitability, then it's going to happen. That's how I see it. Unless somehow someone pulls a big stop button and presses a red button that just kind of nukes all of AI, which I can't see happening. I'm not totally against the idea of regulation where just to stop things getting dangerous. I'm open to that idea, but where it's actually just replacing jobs that can be automated, I don't necessarily see the challenge there. If the quality is the same, now if the quality is going to suffer, or we can still tell, like for example, ChatGPT, right? Everyone's favorite AI tool.
Right.
You look at it these days, people are abusing it, I would say. It's sometimes so obvious.
Maliciously.
Yeah. Well, so sometimes it's just so obvious that it's not a human that's written that. And that's where I think actually it's not ideal. I think ChatGPT is great to help you get started, but it shouldn't be doing everything for you. I think there's always room for human creativity, and I'm not sure it's got good enough. Maybe if it does get good enough, then brilliant. But yeah, it would make me wonder.
You say that. I saw a video on Instagram the other day, right? AI voice had gotten Biggie's voice rapping bars from Eminem. Like, what if Biggie was still alive and he rapped? And like, you heard it, and as a rap fan, I was like, that sounds like him, but it definitely wasn't him because he's not alive to record it.
Yeah.
And that's the scary bit. Like, someone, like you say, it didn't sound like ChatGPT when you read some of the stuff or the content isn't real. Like this sounded like him. It was insane. That's the scary stuff. And that's a creative thing. That's music. That's sorry.
Was it good?
Oh, Biggie went hard. He went hard, son. Like, it was great. But I was like, well, I know it can't be him because he's dead. But I think that's when it gets a bit scary for some people. When like the idea of the humanity aspect of what we do in work being replaced by a machine.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
AI
sound
art,
great,
for
right?
example.
But if it's going to happen anyway, what can you do? Like, we need to sometimes just accept certain realities and find ways to continually distinguish ourselves from the machines. What can we do? What are we bringing that makes us unique?
I mean, you do sound like Skynet right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually in a cafe somewhere. This is my bot replacement.
Okay, time for a silly question. Hey, Randy, how's it going, by the way? Randy House, again, another Americano.
Hey.
I always forget, Randy, I'm sorry, where you are based, but again, thank you for getting up early in the day to see me chat to people. Silly question. If you had to pick one fruit and one vegetable, forsaking all others for the rest of your life, what fruit and vegetable are you eating?
It's easy.
And we'll separate tubers from actual vegetable, like greeny, leafy plants. They're two different things.
Fine. Yeah. I wasn't going to make that distinction, but I would go for fruit-wise. I would go for a blood orange. I'm a big fan of a blood orange. I know it's quite a niche orange, but I love them. They've got a good tartness.
Okay.
And a vegetable.
It also means you can't have things that contain other fruits, by the way. So you can't have no apple pie, no rhubarb crumble, nothing. You're just having just blood oranges.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd find a way to make it work.
Okay.
And then vegetable-wise, aubergines or eggplants for our Americans. Yeah, big fan of them.
Really?
Yeah, man. I'm Mediterranean. I love them.
I mean, they are my least favorite vegetable.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I've never had them cooked well enough. But they're always like kind of chewy and like kind of meaty, but not a little bit. I don't know.
That's weird because when you WhatsApp me, you're always including those emojis.
Yeah, that and the duck pics, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you heard it here first. Eggplants, aubergines, and blood oranges.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to send me a hamper, you know what to include.
That would be the weirdest hamper of all time. Could you imagine me like calling like some kind of company that sends flowers, chocolates, and the sparkly stuff, and they're like, actually, I want some eggplant in there, and some blood oranges.
Yeah, with a ChatGPT subscription. You got me.
Hashtag OnlyFans.
No, that's just you, Dale.
Just me. I mean, I've got the ring light and everything, so maybe one day. No one wants to pay to see that. I can guarantee it. Okay, I have to ask you so you can promote your wares and such. Scope. What is it? What's it about? You leave Xero. Scope happens. What's going on? What is it?
Okay.
Why should I care?
Why should you care? Okay, a great question.
Me personally.
A bit of background. So, Scope have been around for coming up to 11 years. We've been in Malta.
Because I think of the charity when you say Scope, by the way.
Okay, Scope Solutions, let's say. So, Scope Solutions helped lots of practices initially in Malta adopt cloud technology, starting with moving from, let's say, Excel or desktop accounting software to cloud-based software like Xero, QuickBooks, and Zoho. Those are the three that we partner with. Now, beyond that, we also help practices get more efficient. So looking at implementing like practice management software, digital work papers, helping them move away from manual data entry to using technologies like HubDoc, etc., to do automated data capture. So helping the practice become more efficient. Yeah, I mean, it's got its place, man.
I'm messing with you. It does have its place. We use it sometimes as well. I'm messing with you.
Yeah, it's got its place, man. And then the last bit that we do is helping either SMEs directly or the clients of accounting firms go beyond bookkeeping and have software that integrates with it. Let's say, for example, you've got a coffee shop as a client. They might need a POS system, they might need an inventory system, and you want it all talking to their cloud accounting. So we'll get the cloud accounting software in place and then connect the other apps around it. So our pitch tends to be in the ecosystem surrounding these cloud bookkeeping packages. There are thousands of apps. Now, most accounting practices don't have the manpower, human power, however we're going to say it politically these days, got to be safe, to actually maneuver and figure out all of these different kits and what's the right one to pick. The choice is overwhelming, right? We do that research. So we will research thousands of apps, we'll try out hundreds, and then we'll partner with tens, essentially. So when we're working with a practice, we can be their tech partner so that they don't have to worry about getting all the expertise in-house. They've got a partner they can trust over and over again to always deliver, either for their internal needs or for their clients' needs. And then that creates a really sticky, like a three-way relationship between the client, their accountant, and the tech partner.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of trust there because the accounting practice is trusting you guys to make sure you're constantly reviewing the market and giving them the kind of the best results.
And then, just to carry on then, the story. So this year, I kind of came over here. I had the opportunity, when I left Xero, so I built a relationship with the guys at Scope when I was at Xero. When I left, we got talking and we agreed that actually the Middle East is a great opportunity for us to move into. I wanted to move to Dubai anyway, and Dubai's like the softest landing, I would say, for most companies coming into the region. It's really...
How so?
I'd say, like, for someone that's been living in the West, you've got pretty much most of the comforts that you would want on a personal level. Also, economically, it's really well developed. It's got really good digital infrastructure, generally speaking. It's easy to set up over here as a company. So yeah, it has lots of benefits, I would say. And it's probably the most developed one and in the region. You've got Saudi Arabia, that's like not the new kid on the block. They've obviously been around a long time, but they're also really investing and they're up and coming. You just look at the Saudi Pro Football League, right? Like, they've bought a ton of players. They're investing heavily in the region, trying to attract people to it, basically. And that goes for the rest of the Gulf region. And the Middle East more widely is starting to get more kind of tech savvy.
That's cool. I mean, I personally have worked with lots of companies, America and Europe, but never really in the Middle East. Have you found that the working culture or the working day is different in Dubai or the Middle East? Is it similar to the West? Are there any kind of notable differences?
I think, to be honest, it really varies from company to company out here. You've got to think, someone like Dubai has a 90% expat population. So 90% of the people here are not locals. And that's not I don't think that's the figure for the UAE as more widely, but specifically for Dubai, I believe it's around that figure. So it's a real melting pot of different cultures. So with that, you don't only bring individual cultures from different countries that are different, but you're also bringing different organizational culture. And every country, if you've got this real melting pot of like hundreds of different nationalities, depending on where that company originates from, you're likely to have a different working culture or an organizational culture. And also, you've got to think about the age of the business. And there's businesses that have been around here from day dot to newer businesses that are just starting up. So I think the working culture really varies from company to company. You'll get some more hierarchical companies out here, more old school. And then you get some companies that are really kind of have more flat hierarchical structures, really more people-centric, let's say, overall, I would say. So it's a real mix.
Okay. That's good to know, because the reason why I ask is, again, in my limited experience, I find certain nationalities, when dealing with them in business, have different kind of traits in terms of, I don't know, some countries have more of a bartering culture, some have like in the UK, sometimes we can be a bit back and forth in terms of the way we negotiate. I know companies I worked for in the past where they got a Dutch HQ, or a majority of Dutch people, they're very direct. This is just my personal experience. I'm not stereotyping, but that's what I found. And I thought I'd ask the question, but you just explained, actually, Dubai, 90% expats, there's a whole mix of cultures going on. It's not just,
totally, man.
This is the Dubai way, this is how we do things.
I would
So
say generally, though, like I'm an Arab from my heritage, so I'm Lebanese background, but lots of Arabs have similarities in their culture. We're all different in some ways. Everyone's different, right? Everyone's an individual at the end of the day, but there are lots of cultural similarities. So coming from an Arab background, so although I've born and raised in the West, I've always been exposed to the Middle East. I used to come here quite a lot. I'd actually lived in the UAE in the early 90s. It was completely different. But I go to Lebanon every year pretty much to visit family. So I've been really exposed to like the way of working out here. And I also had worked on a few projects over the years in previous companies out here. So I would say that a key difference, and this applies in the UK, but I would say there's more of a focus on the relationship, and there's a bigger importance on having an established relationship before doing business over here. So I would say the route to a transaction in the UK is probably shorter than it is over here.
Okay.
I would say here you need to do more relationship building to get to a place of trust.
That is really helpful to know. And if there's anyone watching, again, looking to explore UAE, that's good to know. Because again, you've done account management roles. I looked on your LinkedIn profile. You've done that kind of stuff, and you can sometimes get an overzealous sales director. Why haven't you delivered? And you're like, actually, the culture is you've got to know this person for at least 6 months to a year properly before we even talk about business or suggest it, because that's the nature of how they are and how they operate.
I wouldn't go quite to that extent, but it's really important to build rapport. And I think that goes even in the UK. Like, building rapport is really important.
Yeah, sure.
Having a strong relationship is important. However, you can't get down to business too quickly, I would say. Spending more time and investing in it, and not always wanting something immediately in return, is totally expected here.
Yeah. Okay. And going back to something you just said before, I'm going to try and draw a parallel, see if it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, again, you being from the Middle East and your heritage and background, Lebanese. You said not all the countries are the same, but there are some commonalities. I think that might be the same with the West Indies. So I was born in the UK. My parents are Jamaican. But if I speak to some of my friends who are of like Bayesian descent or from like Trinidad, like all the islands are completely different with slightly different cultures, but there are some overlapping things, either food or even like, I don't know, what's the way, things you experience as a child, kind of parenting style. Would you say it's the same kind of thing? Like, lots of different countries in the area, but there's some regional similarities.
100%, man. Like, there's more that joins us together, I would say, than separates us. Everyone has their quirks, but okay. I genuinely think that when I'm dealing with other Arabs over here, they feel a sense of like common ground between us. And I genuinely believe it helps the relationship.
Okay, so question for you, somewhat of a personal nature. If I were to ask an Arabic person, what are the 3 things you experienced as a child growing up, what would the commonalities be? Because I can tell you what the West Indian ones would be, but I'd be interested to know.
I'm thinking about this on the spot. This is genuinely on the spot. This isn't pre-prepared. Yeah. I would say we're a feeding culture. So you cannot say no to food, genuine. Like, if I'm at my nan's house, let's say, and she wants to feed me, saying no is not an option. And even like even after you've eaten and you think you're full, there's probably more food coming until you somehow manage to slip away. So they're real feeders.
Okay, yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay.
The second thing, I would say generosity. And that maybe I'd say Arab cultures are generally really generous. Let's say, for example, this whole idea of splitting a bill just doesn't happen, quite frankly. Maybe in some of the younger generation.
Really?
But like, you would get, like, let's say we go out for a meal. I'm with my friends. in the UK, you're probably like going to have someone duck out. I've been in the UK. I'm also British, by the way, so I can say this. But you haven't. So I've had occasions where someone like just hasn't paid. They clearly haven't paid when you've done a whip round and it's a big group, and it's like no one's admitting it, right? Over here, what Arabs do is they will literally fight over who's paying the whole bill, and they'll do sneaky maneuvers to pay the bill. So like someone will go say, "I'm just going to," they'll step away to go to the toilet, and they'll come back, not say anything. And then you're going to ask for the bill and say,
Bill's paid.
Then the bill says, "Oh yeah, it's already been sorted." Like that's genuinely how, and you get paranoid about someone else paying the bill. That's just what they're like. I'd say Arabs are really generous overall. I've seen people like in Lebanon, you're walking through the village, and random people that you don't know will say, "Oh, like if you catch their eye or whatever," and they'll say, "Oh, come on, come in, come stay over, have some tea," or like let's say you knock on someone's door uninvited, and they're having dinner or lunch or whatever it is. They'll, even if they don't have enough food, they will with them, and they will sooner not eat.
Sorry, your internet connection I think is breaking up ever so slightly. You're saying generosity, people invite you in for tea.
Yeah, people invite you in for dinner, tea. Even if they don't have enough food, they will let you have it. Like, they're very generous.
Okay. So one more thing. So one thing that you think all Middle Eastern or Arabic kids may have experienced, they can agree on.
Kids, what else?
You said feeding and you said generosity.
Generosity. Okay, what else? I would say strong father figures, for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure, Matt.
Okay.
I would say Middle Eastern fathers, Arabic fathers tend to be, generally speaking, dominating. Not necessarily in a scary way and not in a dictatorial way, but I think they take their responsibilities very seriously. But overall, they're fair, and they've always got your best interests at heart. But yeah, I'd say having strong male figures is definitely a feature.
Yep. So I could speak to any Arabic Middle Eastern person I might know, and they'd be like, "Yep, strong male role models, feeders, and general hospitality." That's a kind of a cultural thing across all
I'd be surprised if that, and there's always going to be exceptions, but I'd be surprised if most people didn't experience that.
Okay, well, since you shared a bit about yours, I would say these are the observations I have. There has always been, from West Indian parents, no matter which island it is, focus on education. Like, you can ask any West Indian child or West Indian descent, what would your parents or grandparents say, and they'll say, get your education. There's always a big thing on learning. Possibly from historic where they were denied access to learning, but that's a big thing. If you ask any first or second generation person in the UK from the Caribbean, it's education, learning. Similarly, a food culture. A lot of people know this, but like in Jamaica, got rice and peas, right? Some other islands say peas and rice. People, it's a staple, right? But it actually takes a long time to prepare. There's a lot of love that goes into like West Indian food in general. Again, it's different from different islands, but generally speaking, there's the seasonings, there's marinade, there's preparing the different ingredients to make the combined. It's a labour of love, and you're right. There's that granny. Your granny has prepared. Like my granny is 93 years old, right? She's 93. She's passing 90s, right? If I go to visit her now, she will try and get up and make me a cup of tea. Like, granny, you sit down, let me look after you. But she will do that, and that's a very cultural thing. So I can agree with that one. And a third one, I mean, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Whoopings are a thing. Like, maybe not so much anymore, but like, ask any first, second generation kid in the UK from Caribbean parents, you probably got a smack at some point in your life.
I'd say that's another thing that used to feature more so, less so now.
Yeah. And the worst thing is, like, so in Jamaica, they're called beatings. And that has different meanings in the UK. Like, you say beatings, you're thinking, like, knuckle dusters. No, it was called, like, beatings or whoopings. It was never, like, a tool or an implement. It was just, like, you know, you're going to get a smack. And I'd say that's three things. You can ask any person of West Indian descent. Yeah, no matter what island they came from, they got a whipping, they got some tasty food, and education is paramount.
Yeah, I mean, these things, I would say, are common across lots of cultures. So yeah, I think like education tends to be a common one as well in most households. I would say there's a focus on it for sure.
But like, yeah, anything other than an A is a failure.
Well, yeah, if you get a B, why didn't you get an A, right?
Yeah, that line, and that's just my experience anyway. Did we cover all the topics? We talked about digitalisation, what it is. Did we touch on cloud stuff? Touch on that?
Just make it.
Oh, okay. I don't want to stitch you up with too much of a technical question, but just bear with me. People often say cloud. Are there different types of cloud, and can you maybe dissect it a little bit for the layman's?
Okay.
Because cloud's just like cloud.
Yeah, there are different types of cloud, and again, some cloud connoisseur is going to maybe put something in the comments afterwards. But I would say that you have software as a service, which is traditionally cloud. So this is where the software is hosted elsewhere in a public cloud. So you can this is the example of like just say going to netflix.com, right? That's cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Just access it from anywhere. You don't have to have special permission to get onto the site or anything like that. You log in and you're on your account. That's a kind of a proper cloud service, a full cloud as we would expect it. And Xero's the same, QuickBooks Online's the same. And then you've got cloud connected, or there might be different versions or different ways of calling it. But essentially, this is where, let's say you've got desktop software, so the software that you would install onto your desktop computer. But then it synchronizes with a cloud data center somewhere, so that the data is essentially being backed up somewhere else, either in real time or at certain intervals. So this way, the way they see it is, it's a way of, if you've got someone that's used to using a particular desktop product and they don't want to move away from it, then they can use a cloud connected product to get some of the benefits that you would get from cloud, but probably not all of them.
One of my pet peeves, by the way, when suppliers say it's cloud, it's like, it's cloud connected. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Sorry, please continue. I interrupted you.
Yeah, and other than that, you get some private cloud stuff where it's essentially, let's say I want to use it as, I want to be able to go into my browser and connect to my application and use it from anywhere. It will work, but only from certain, let's say, IP addresses. So they would white label certain IP addresses. So this is where you only want your organization, let's say, to access that application, and they can access it from anywhere as long as they use their VPN or something like that, or they're on a particular site, so they've got their IP. So that's a way of locking it down to some extent just for your organization. And this might be where you want your own instance of the software. So it's almost like the traditional, and this is more common in the enterprise space rather than the SME space, but you might want to have customized or bespoke software for you. You want it to be accessible anywhere, but you don't want it open to the wider web, right? So that anyone can get at it.
Yep.
Those are the three areas that I would say, and I may have missed something there, but that's what comes to my mind.
No, you're right. Like, you can ask what is cloud, and you can ask someone from, I don't know, HP Enterprise, for example, and they'll talk about, like, the infrastructure and the servers. It's magnanimous and large. So yeah, there you go, Andrew Ward. No cloud connoisseur will pull you up here, Ayman. There you go. So yeah, thank you for explaining it. Also, even if they did, right? Who are they? They're not on the stream. They're just commenting. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, cool. Do you have any questions for me, by the way? Like, I feel like I've interrogated you a little bit.
Yeah. So, where does the name Rodriguez come from?
Slavery.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, thanks for that, Andrew. No, Rodriguez. So both my parents are Jamaican, and yeah, European. So if it's spelled with a Z, it's usually Spanish. If it's spelled with an S, it's Portuguese. Yeah. So Spanish heritage somewhere. My Spanish is so bad. I can't even roll my R's. I'm actually practicing and learning how to roll my R's, right? So Raquel, who commented earlier, she said there's a tip you can use. Say rosas, rojas, and you keep doing that, and you'll learn to roll your R's.
You see,
but yeah, Spanish.
As an Arabic speaker, like, rolling R's comes with the territory, but I also learned Spanish, but I'm just based on what you're saying, I'm probably a little bit further along, but I can do Spanish all right. But I assumed that you'd be able to talk it, so I'm a little bit disappointed.
It's more of a confidence thing for me. If I am speaking to a Spanish speaker, and they have a decent accent, by the way, because like in English, there's, like, Liverpudlian, and there's if they have a standard accent, I can usually understand them and answer back in English. It's more confidence having to speak it, so I can usually get by in Spanish. Please, thank you, I'd like this, please, all that kind of stuff. And if somebody's speaking to me, I will pick up most of the words, about 80% of the words, because again, my parents were like, you need to learn another language, and Spanish was the one. So I can speak a bit of Spanish, but it's more confidence, because again, there's been times when I've gone out and I've, I don't know, checked into a hotel and the concierge is Spanish,
Mhm.
and I say, check in for Rodriguez, and they're like, sorry, what? Rodriguez. And I start spelling it, they type it in, and they're like, oh, Rodriguez, you say it funny. I'm like, I know I say it funny because I don't speak Spanish properly. So, yeah.
That's interesting, man. Okay. And another question. So you started your own firm, didn't you, a few years back?
I did.
Tell me about your experience.
As in, like, did I enjoy it, or
Yeah,
how difficult it
what were the
was?
ups and
Or...
downs? Like, I'd love to hear it, because you're not doing it now, right? So I'm assuming it didn't go where you wanted it to in the end. Is that fair?
No, it didn't go where I wanted to go. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. Starting it in 2020, not the best time. The only reason why it failed was two reasons. One, I am not a qualified accountant. And I had a business partner that was a qualified accountant, because again, I think that's very, very important when you're doing this kind of work, especially with tax and compliance. They didn't do the work they were supposed to do. And it was a choice between ripping off some of my clients or refunding them. And you can imagine, after the first year of trading, refunding a handful of clients, no additional revenue. So I had to shut down. But no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing the advisory side of things. So whilst I don't do tax compliance advice, what I can do is look at a set of accounts and go, okay, well, this has changed this year. Why has it changed, and what is the reason behind it? And it's kind of what I do with my systems advisory stuff. Is if there's things happening in the business and the numbers are changing in a way that the business owner is not aware of or not quite privy to, I'm like, okay, what actually is the cause behind this? Is it a human thing? Is it a system thing? Can we do anything about it? So that's the bit I really enjoyed, and that was really, really fun. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think
I feel like I waffled a little bit.
Talked about the ups and downs. So yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that one. I appreciate it.
No, it's fine. I've put you on the spot with loads of questions already, so it's
good.
fine.
No, but look, the reason why I asked was I always think it's interesting how people react to things that don't go to plan. So how do you feel like you've learned from it? Because that's the most important thing. It's not the actual failing, is it? It's actually how much have you learned?
Oh, I've definitely learned from it. Like, I learned that I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And don't get me wrong, I didn't go in it with arrogance. So I've got other friends and family members who started their own business, successful, sold them, exited. So I didn't think I could just do it. I knew it was going to be harder. But yeah, I learned so much. To be honest, I learned to be really humble, right? Like, you can have a certain persona on social media or LinkedIn, and because that's sales, that's marketing, whatever it is. But like, I know I learned to really like just listen to people and hear what's going through them on their businesses. That's what really helped. And if I were to ever do it again, there are like 20 things I would do differently. So from that perspective, I definitely learned a lot.
Good on you, man. That's the most important bit.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
All right. Before we go, again, just one more for you. Do you have any kind of nuggets or wisdoms or final thoughts you want to share with people who are watching and listening, or for later audiences?
What's my advice? Never give unsolicited advice, right? That's what people say. No, look, what I would say is, just going back on the point I made earlier about people not knowing how to navigate their careers and putting barriers in their way and not sharing it. What I found incredibly helpful throughout my career was always finding someone to mentor me in some way. So, but by sharing that journey and being deliberate about the direction I wanted to go in, I was able to get to where I wanted to probably a bit quicker than, let's say, if I was to sit there and wait for things to happen to me. I think lots of people don't like the idea that being really good at your job doesn't always lead to promotions or to you getting where you need to go. But that's the hard reality of the world. Sometimes it's more about perception, and you need to sell yourselves. So what I would say is, if anyone's thinking, man, so and so didn't deserve it, I deserve that, you've got to really think about, what did I do to make sure that I got that and didn't just wait for it to happen to me. Being really good at your job is the right thing to do, but it's not everything. I'd say people need to be really deliberate about where they're going and come up with an action plan to get there. Man, I had an Asana board with what job I wanted to do, and I broke it down into things that I think I need to do, people I think I need to talk to, books I need to read, etc., things I need to demonstrate to get me there. And I would make sure that I held myself to account. And I got a mentor that I shared this with, and I would go through it with them, and that kind of made them hold me to account to some extent as well. And I just met with them monthly, and it was great. It was just an internal mentor at Xero, and it was really good, man. So I would say, if you feel like you want to go somewhere in your career and you're not quite sure how to get there, be deliberate about it. Come up with a plan. Work with someone that you think has the time to invest in you as well. But if you don't do it, then it's just not going to happen. It's less likely to happen by itself.
That was insanely insightful. Thank you for that. I'm going to end the broadcast. That was fantastic. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Dale.
Absolutely fantastic.
Pleasure.